Hello there, codeheads. I'm your host, Dean Ruffius Creepcrest, and you're tuned into Gruesome University, where our motto is, the truth will make you freak. Well now, it is that time of the year again, the deathly days of autumn, when classroom lectures are as bleak as the weather outside, when the leaves fall as does the students' grades. Yes, it is that time when we separate the goats from the sheep, the muck from the mud, and the bilge pump from the bilge. The midterm, or should I say, ridterm exams, where we find out which student made the cut. Ah! Well now, there goes another one. You can't blame us, you know. He never even opened his textbook. All he did was park his posterior on a tavern stool, where he consumed pints of what one would describe in taste and color as the yellow discharge from a pony, or more crudely surmised as horse piss, or some might call it beer. So now I have to find his replacement. Let's try someone different this time, shall we? A student who seeks to pass the bar rather than drink in one. Ah, yes, here's a young egghead of interest. His name is Manuel. He's one of those social protesters, you know, the kind that may have participated in that odorous affair a few years back called Occupy Wall Street. A pesky sort, this Manuel. He is the kind you see on the sidewalk with a petition interrupting your way to the bank to foreclose on a student loan debtor. Manuel's tale is an intriguing one. A young radical who saw communist red spilling out from the ruptured veins of his comrades. Sounds colorful. So listen up, young scholars. Here's a story about a rebel with a cause. The cause to flee in absolute fear and fright from a most horrific and terrifying scene. The title of it is Occupy Blood.
The Righteous Five. That's what the newspapers and blogs called us. They said we were agitators. They said we were revolutionaries. They said we were going to change the world. We occupied the city park. We raised our fists and spoke words of truth. We wore peace signs on our backs. We wore red scarves, a symbol of the blood spilled by our fathers and grandfathers. Our struggle was against economic injustice. Our enemies were the government, the corporations, and the rich.
Who do we blame for the misery in this world?
The rich!
Who do we blame for the paltry wages of fear?
The rich!
And who will we punish for this injustice?
The rich!
That was Sawyer, the leader and founder of our group. He was a charismatic one, the outspoken one. The polar opposite to Crystal. She was our second in command. She was shy and withdrawn. Then there was Patrice, the prom queen, the valedictorian, the varsity tennis player. And she was so different from Monroe, my best friend. He was a greaser, the bottom of his class, the one who never attended a high school function and never played a high school sport. And then there was me, Manny, the youngest in the group, the pseudo-kid brother. I was the go-to person, the reliable soldier who got things done. While they spoke and preached, I planned and worked. While they drifted in the clouds of ideology, I roamed the ground of practicality. Yes, we were all different from each other. You might even say that we were incompatible. I doubt we would have been friends if we had known each other in high school. The only thing we had in common was our cause. We wanted to overturn an unjust, capitalistic system and turn America into a worker's paradise. We met at the old bookstores in the city, not the kind of bookstores you find in shopping malls. These were the bookstores owned by solemn men with gray beards. They sold old, forgotten books. Books by writers and philosophers who became our heroes, such as Marx and Engels, Lenin and Trotsky, Gramsci and Galliani. Every weekend, we walked the streets talking and arguing. We formed our group and pledged ourselves to revolution. I was 16 when I ran away from home to join them. I left a note not telling my parents where I was going, just that I was going to change the world. What really happened was that the world changed me. A dark world. A world of harsh nature, of beasts and brutality. It all began on the last day of our siege of the park. We had pitched our tents in a small oasis among towers of steel. Our weapons were words of truth. Hundreds of kids, just like us, joined our cause. That was when things began to change.
Whoa, check out the cops. There must be 200 of them.
It's like an army.
They're going to make their move. They're going to kick us out of the park.
We can't let them.
The police have had enough. They were dressed in riot gear, with helmets and billy clubs.
If that's the way they want it, then I say let's attack them first. Any ideas, Manny?
That was me, the go-to person. I wasn't too worried. I had already made preparations. Slingshots. I made them from old belts I found in the trash. Glass, bottles, cans, anything, small and heavy. Here, watch. You wrap the ends of the belt around a glass bottle like this, and sling it. I twirled it over my head, and the glass bottle flew and hit a police officer in the head.
Nice shot.
2 points. All right, let's do that. Listen, you kids. We're not fooling around anymore. Cease and desist. Vacate the park now, or we'll shove our billy clubs up your asses.
Oh yeah? Shove this up your ass.
Eat this, pig.
Pawns for the rich.
These are our streets. This is our park.
My slingshots worked beautifully. Rocks and glass flew everywhere and hit the police. We filled bottles with ketchup and bombarded the police with all kinds of trash. Within minutes, they rushed in on us.
That's it. Let them have it. Take out these punks. Hey, commie, eat this.
It might have been better not to have attacked the police that day. We lost the park and escaped to an abandoned cannery by the docks. The next week were the elections, and the people were turned off by our cause. They chose not a new direction, but the status quo. Our movement had changed nothing. That's when Sawyer decided a new course for the revolution.
We made a promise to be non-violent. Now I say to you, comrades, that the time has come to break that promise.
I don't know. I hate violence. It doesn't solve anything.
How do you think Lenin overtook the Tsars? How do you think Che and Fidel overthrew Batista in Cuba? They did it through force. I say we follow their leads. 'Tis your mission, Manny. Make us all proud. Devise a bomb to explode our passivity. Let the world know we still exist, that we still matter, that we still are righteous.
I nodded blankly to assure everyone that I was up to the task. Only later did I express how I really felt. I woke up Monroe, who had been sleeping calmly on the floor in a sleeping bag. Monroe, I'm not sure I can do this.
Manny, do you know what time it is? What is this?
I don't think I can make a bomb.
You're great with your hands. Once you figure it out, you'll be able to make a bomb in your sleep.
I'm not sure this is right.
Of course this is right. Our enemies are onto us. You saw the results of that bullshit election. They want fat old men to rule over us. We have to fight back. We have to hurt them. This is our only way.
He went back to sleep and left me to sit in silence. For the first time since we met, I wanted to leave the group. I didn't like our new direction. The old steel door with a tin handle, eaten by rust, was a way out. I could give up the cause and be just like all the other kids my age, still in high school, still living with my parents. I stood at the doorway and looked back one last time. There they were, the 4 of them. Sawyer, Crystal, Patrice, and Monroe, sleeping contentedly in their sleeping bags and dreaming to change the world. I realized that I could not leave. Before I joined them, I was no one. They gave me a purpose. They gave me a cause. They gave me a chance to be better than what I had been. I returned to my sleeping bag, closed my eyes, and like all the others, I too dreamed of changing the world. When I awoke the next day, I got to work making bombs. One bookstore I liked contained not only books on philosophy and history, but also books on pyrotechnics and weapon making. I bought and read The Anarchist Cookbook by William Powell, The Poor Man's James Bond by Kurt Saxon, and La Salute en une Voie by Luigi Galliani. Old military manuals and survival guides were also available for purchase. I was by myself most days as others from the group searched the city for targets. It was Sawyer who discovered a newly built warehouse right off the interstate that housed bulldozers and construction equipment for the government's main contractor.
Those bastards are getting ready to build a new highway right through the poorest neighborhoods. The people will no longer have homes, just so the rich can get their luxury cars and fur coats faster.
Destroying the means to build the highway is a way to stop the injustice, and will win the hearts of more followers to our cause.
Then it is settled. We will blow up that building.
My first thought was TNT, but the more research I did, the more I discovered that plastic explosives, C4, was far more lethal. The chemical ingredients were of 3 parts: ammonium nitrate, nitromethane, and aluminum powder. I found out it was not illegal to know how to make a bomb, just illegal how to detonate a bomb. There are many things you see and use each day that, when broken apart, contain the means to C4 bomb. For instance, ammonium nitrate was obtainable from ice packs. Aluminum powder was obtainable from aluminum foil. I bought a coffee grinder to grind down the material into a fine powder. Aluminum powder was highly flammable and when mixed with ammonium nitrate would ensure an even combustion to the explosive. The most difficult ingredient to obtain was nitromethane. I searched the pages of a hot rod magazine and saw that from an ad of a local garage sold it by the gallon. Monroe was able to purchase it with no questions asked. I then mixed the nitromethane with the ammonium nitrate powder and left the compound to evaporate. When dry, I mixed in the aluminum powder. You don't need to make the plastic in order to detonate the ingredients to a plastic bomb. We used empty wine bottles. A wound of string pre-soaked in nail polish removal was tied around each bottle. The string was then lit on fire for some time. We then immersed each bottle in cold water, and the bottom halves were completely severed. To detonate the bombs was another easy exercise. Monroe had found in a trash can behind a toy store old walkie-talkies. I removed their plastic casings and detached the light switches from the wires. I then spliced the ends and inserted them through the wax tops of the C4 bombs. I then taped the walkie-talkies to the sides of the bottles. The night of the mission was misty and cold. The last stop on the metro line was an urban wasteland. A mile walk took us to an industrial center of warehouses and garages. We found our target, a flat and uninspiring building. Security was non-existent, just a wired fence that surrounded the property. We crawled under a gap in the fence. We attached the bombs to the sides of the building. The interstate laid beyond a thicket of trees with a broad line of white and red lights. Monroe and I stationed ourselves on the other side of the parking lot. At that point, I wanted to abandon the mission. I knew the next step would forever change my life. Monroe, let's go home. Let's go back to where we grew up.
Manny, you have to accept the way things are. You're here with me, with us. To go back now is to go back to a life of conformity and pretense. We are climbing the mountain. Now is not the time to look back. You know what to do. Change the world.
With that, I turned on my walkie-talkie and twisted the dial to channel 5, a channel shared with all the other walkie-talkies. I pressed the lever to speak. The ground shook from the noise. We felt a hard rush of air push us against the fence, and then we were on the dirt floor with metal wires all around us. Flames shot up with chunks of concrete falling everywhere. I stood up fast. Monroe, come on! We have to get out of here!
My leg is stuck in the fence wire. Help me unwind it.
Something flew past my ear. I turned to see a piece of scrap metal from the roof. It was the size of my arm. It went right through Monroe's diaphragm. His eyes and mouth were wide, staring at the flames ahead. His lips were soaked in blood. His body shook and his head sank into his chest. Monroe! Just then, another explosion banged the air, and I saw a wall of flame come towards me. I dove away from the fire, only to look back to see Monroe's body lit like a bonfire. All around me were booming sounds of other explosions, farther away in the direction of the interstate highway. As I found out later, the warehouse of bulldozers, forklifts, and other construction vehicles also contained propane fuel tanks that flew out onto the interstate, crashing and exploding into trucks and cars. I chose not to take the metro back. I walked the entire distance through the cold, drizzly night. Along the way, I heard fire and police sirens. I passed bars and pubs and peeked through their windows to see the televisions on, with the nightly news updates on the destruction.
The death toll is over 100 and still counting. Many more are severely injured. The source of the explosion was a homemade bomb detonated near the interstate. The police and FBI have ruled it an act of terrorism.
It was just an hour before sunrise when I made it to the abandoned cannery by the docks. No one was there to greet me, just a chalk drawing of Pennsylvania with an arrow pointed to a small circle with the name Pontsville, a street address and zip code. Sawyer's words then followed. Meet us there in 2 months. Whenever asked, I lied about my name, my age, and where I came from. I took a job in an espresso bar where I said I was a college student. Every day customers came in with their laptops and smartphones. We were now criminals. We were now 4 of the FBI's 10 most wanted. One headline after another denounced us. Talk radio hated us.
They are terrorists. Do you understand? Terrorists. These people are not human, they're animals. They literally do not have brains because they're so resolved in their points. They would kill us all just to save a mutated fish man. Let's take a call from one of the listeners. Carl from Tasaki, Missouri. Carl, what do you have to say?
Jeb Ravage, you're a disgrace to the media. These are kids. All they want to do is pursue their First Amendment rights and protest for what they think is right.
Right. I'll tell you what's right. Beating their brains out. Get on my show, you crazy lunatic. I hope the terrorists get to you. Then maybe you'll think twice about what this country is becoming. Oy vey. I need an aspirin. Somebody get me an aspirin. My head's going to explode with so much stupidity.
I worked every day of the week, 2 shifts. Besides serving coffee, I cleaned the bathrooms, washed the tabletops, and took out the trash. I did whatever was needed to keep me there, indoors and out of sight from the police. I worked hard and did my tasks efficiently. My supervisor was pleased with my performance and even offered me a raise and promotion to assistant manager. But 60 days had passed, and the time had come to leave and rendezvous with Sawyer, Crystal, and Patrice. It was a late afternoon when I arrived by train to Pontsville, Pennsylvania. I found the street address Sawyer had written in chalk. It was a long, arduous trek to a broad Victorian home, isolated and alone in the country. It was built with granite outcrop. The side of the mountain was demolished to create space for the structure. The old house brushed up against an encroaching earth of black, wet sod, thick green moss, and dangled tree roots. I walked up the stairs and turned the old brass knob. The air inside was heavy with dust. To my right was a brass chandelier covered in cobwebs over a stately dinner table covered in dust. Facing me was a broad staircase that wound to the floor. I took a step forward when the light went on. It was Sawyer, his gray eyes staring intensely. He was holding a gun. Hey, it's me.
Sure, bro. Sorry. I didn't know it was you in the dark. We keep the lights off. We don't want any attention.
He approached me slowly, his gun now in his front pocket. He smiled and shook my hand. It was good to see him. He looked as he did before, curly red hair, a freckled complexion, a red beard that hugged his jaw and chin. I heard footsteps on the stairs. I turned to see Patrice, with her hair yellow as gold and teeth white as pearls. She was beautiful, a prom queen, no matter the setting.
You made it. It's so good to see you. How do you like this place, comrade?
It's great. A perfect hideout. But someone is missing. Where's Crystal?
Crystal is upstairs, preparing.
Preparing? For what?
Your trial.
What are you talking about?
You are on trial for the murder of our comrade Monroe Toffler, and for crimes against the revolution.
I knew what had happened before the sight of Patrice went black and I fell to the ground. Sawyer had just hit me with the butt of his revolver. When I regained consciousness, I found myself on a cot in a room with white stucco walls. I sat up and rubbed my eyes. The fluorescent lights above glowed brightly as my head throbbed. I took in my surroundings as best I could. I saw a large sink a few steps away next to a water heater and a boiler. The ceiling was without drywall and insulation, and showed cross beams, wires going to and fro, and an array of pipes. I knew where I was from hearing faint voices of Patrice and Sawyer overhead. I was in a room of the old house's basement. I tried to stand up, and my sight was cloudy. I sat back down and focused on what were 2 steel barrels, some feet in front of me. They were the kind you saw at gas stations, discarded tanks, that once came with fuel.
How are you feeling?
The voice was a familiar one. It was Crystal.
I bet your head hurts.
She was small and frail. Her brown straight hair was in a bow, pulled tightly between her head. She had thin features, pale yet flawless skin. Her eyes were as blue as a cloudless sky. She might have been pretty had it not been for her nose, sharp and direct like a pointed finger. She wore black horn-rimmed glasses, the kind that were in style when Eisenhower was president. Why did Sawyer have to hit me so hard?
You know him. He gets carried away.
Crystal walked over to the 2 steel barrels, removed their lids, immersed in them 2 wash towels. She walked over to where I sat and placed the towels around my neck. The water was cold and the pain subsided.
Here, it'll keep the throbbing down.
What's all this about anyway? Patrice said I'm on trial.
The Committee of Internal Justice has charged you with the murder of our comrade Monroe Toffler and for acts against the revolution.
Committee of Internal Justice? What is that?
We thought it up some months ago. It was kind of a secret between us. You had to be 18 to serve on the committee. Since you're 2 years younger, we decided not to tell you.
Times like these, I wish I were older.
It doesn't matter much now. I am here to defend you. I have been appointed to take up your case. Sawyer is the prosecution, and Patrice will be the judge. The trial is to take place here in the house.
This is crazy. I'm on trial for doing what Sawyer ordered me to do. I didn't kill Monroe. He died during the explosion. A piece from the roof was severed and it killed him.
Good. We will take that line of defense. Do you spell negligence with 2 G's?
Wait a second. I wasn't negligent. I did everything I was supposed to do. If ever there were a person negligent, it was Sawyer. He didn't tell me there were propane tanks inside the warehouse.
That is inadmissible. Sawyer's not on trial. You are.
She stood up quickly and began pacing the floor. Each step she took caused the water inside the barrels to vibrate with ripples over the top stream down the sides.
I will do my best, but I'm not so sure of the outcome. I mean, the destruction was awful. So many people died, and now we are wanted by the FBI. Everyone hates us. This has foiled the revolution.
I did what you all wanted me to do.
Yes, but did you have to make the bomb so powerful? Why not a firecracker or something like that?
It takes more than a firecracker to destroy a building.
Oh, I hate violence. I hate death. I'm not good at this. I have to go. I have to get ready. But if they say you are guilty, then I'm leaving. I'm finished. I can't stay here for this.
What do you mean?
Your execution. This is a trial for your life.
With that, she stepped out and locked the door behind her. My own friends were deciding whether or not to kill me. I had to get out of there. There was a desk and table beside the 2 barrels of water. I searched there for a letter opener or some other instrument to help me pick the lock. I saw pens and pencils, graph paper, protractors, and several calculators. I opened the drawers and found nothing except a leather-bound journal, the size of a dictionary. I placed the book atop the desk and flipped the cover. The title was Project, Use of Flatworms in Pest Control, by Thomas Trepidate, Ph.D., University of Pennsylvania. The book contained dates, going as far back as 2 years, with lengthy notations, graphs, and illustrations. A number of pages came with drawings of creatures. I thought for a moment they might have been fossilized trilobites, but as the title suggested, they were flatworms. On other pages I saw illustrations of DNA configurations, observations, and a host of formulas and mathematical equations. I placed the journal down to search the table beside the desk. There was lab and recording equipment. The voices overheard grabbed my attention. They were faint but distinct. It was Sawyer and Patrice. I wanted to hear what they said. At the end of the table was an old stereo plugged into a wall socket and still operational. It came with a headset attached to a microphone. There were nails lodged in the crossbeams. I hung the headset there and turned on the stereo and immediately was able to hear Sawyer and Patrice. They were discussing the house. Sawyer's house, as it turned out, owned by his father.
My dad has an estate in every state.
Oh, you're rich?
Yes, indeed I am. If we get caught, my dad will hire the best lawyers in the world to get us off.
Sawyer always attacked the rich. His speeches were the most impassioned among us. He was Robin Hood. He wanted to confiscate the property of the rich and give to the poor. He spoke out against the privileged few, of which it turned out he was one.
Why did you choose this house, but not your others?
Oh, that was easy. My father invested in all kinds of startups. He gave seed money to his friend from college, a madman who thought up of some crazy idea. I'm not sure what exactly. My father had let him live here rent-free to pursue his experiments. I came here and found him passed out on the couch. When I woke him up, he started crying, saying he was a failure. I didn't care. I kicked him out. Now the place is ours.
Ooh, I like it. I like this house a lot.
It needs repair and restoration. Maybe you and I can come back here when we turn ourselves in.
Oh, no, we can't do that. We'll get in big trouble.
Not after today we are. All we have to do is take care of Manny.
What do you mean?
We are in crisis mode. We have to control the damage. No matter what Crystal says, you rule him guilty. We have to give the authorities someone, and that will be him. We won't kill him. I only said that to scare him. My dad then will hire the best lawyers in the world to defend us. They will plea bargain and let us go free since we turned in the mastermind of the explosion, Manny.
My relief that I was not going to die did me little good at the prospect of being turned over to the authorities. I had to escape. I searched the table again for a letter opener, when suddenly I heard water splashing. I turned to see the barrel shaking. The water inside was percolating. I thought for a moment there was an earthquake, but realized I was on solid ground. Suddenly, the room filled with an odor of decayed, rotting flesh. The water splashed up and over the sides. I looked closely, and there appeared a black creature, flat, soft, and covered in mucus. It was an oval shape, rather large, about the size of a serving plate. It crawled over the side of the barrel and fell to the linoleum floor and slinked toward the door. Soon followed another creature about the same size, but lighter in color, more gray than black. It too reached the top of the barrel and slid down to scurry along the floor, leaving a trail of green ooze. I sat atop the table and brought my knees to my chest. 2 more creatures appeared, this time from the other barrel. They were thinner and narrower and came in colors of dark red and orange. Soon water was splashing everywhere. There were more creatures, one after another. They came from the depths of the barrel, sometimes solitary, sometimes in 2s, 3s, and 4s. There were smaller and more agile figures that sometimes rested atop bulkier specimens. They slinked and slithered to the top of the barrel, only to fall to the floor below and follow the others toward the door. I lowered my head towards the journal. The page shown contained a list of subspecies of flatworms and leeches. I turned back to see hundreds of creatures that covered the floor. They squirmed and crowded to leave the room at the doorway. Meanwhile, others attached themselves to the white walls to climb to the top and disappear from my sight under the floorboards above. Where they were going and why, I did not know. When the water stopped percolating and the last flatworm vacated the room, I turned back to the journal, flipped the pages to what were the test results. There was an illustration drawn in hand, consisting of speakers and microphones, sound waves, the numbers on a volume scale. I read how the DNA of leeches had been inserted into flatworms, and the new creatures were to be trained using sound waves to venture the city's sewers to eat rats and other vermin. The last page summarized the experiment. The entire project was a failure. The last words were an admission of defeat that chilled me to my core. The scientist, Dr. Thomas Trepidite, whom Sawyer evicted, had written the following. The attraction to sound waves among hybrids were unsuccessful in their discrimination during feeding. I had to escape. I dislodged a nail from an exposed beam to insert in the keyhole. I turned and twisted the handle to open the door. I was freed from my white-walled prison. Stairs to the ground floor were at my right, while ahead was another room, bare of furniture but carpeted, with windows. They were easy to open. Sawyer and the others would keep talking. Any topic could arouse their vocal cords for hours. I could be back at the train station before they even knew of my escape. I stood there in the center of the vacant room, wanting to leave, wanting to get back to the city and live my life there. Yet, I could not move. I could not escape. I kept thinking about what Dr. Trepidite had written. I kept seeing his creatures, swarthy and wet, how they moved with slow determination. I had to tell my friends. I still liked them, even if they had turned against me. I proceeded up the stairs. The further I went, the more mucus I encountered. When I reached the top, I slipped in a puddle of green, brown goo. I lost my balance, slipped, and hit the floor head first, right near the spot where Sawyer had assaulted me with his gun. For the second time that day, I lost my consciousness. When I opened my eyes, I was in the dining room of the old house, sitting there staring ahead, beyond the glow of candles, at a wall of darkness.
You are an enemy of the revolution.
You don't have to be so dramatic. Besides, he is accused. Must I remind you? People are innocent until proven guilty.
I can barely see anyone. Step closer to the candles.
Is that better? Can you see us now? Or would you rather us turn all the lights on in the house and show the world our hideout?
You don't understand.
Oh, I understand all right. You want us to get caught. You want to turn us over to the FBI.
That would be you, not me. Sawyer has this all planned out. He'll turn me over to the FBI. I heard him tell this to Patrice when I was downstairs.
Is that true?
We are in crisis mode, Crystal. Why should we all pay the price for his mistakes?
I can't believe this. You planned a show trial. You are no better than the rich who rule the courts.
That's because he is rich. He owns this house. His father has houses everywhere.
I can't believe this. You swore to take a vow of poverty.
What's so wrong about being rich?
Nothing, unless you want to lead a revolution. When you claim to overthrow the rich, it makes it awfully hard to gain credibility when your leader is rich.
Crystal, you should read your history. How do you think Lenin was able to make it back to Russia to begin the revolution there? He was given a train ticket by a German industrialist with the Kaiser's blessing. Every revolution needs money. It was Gramsci who said to use capitalism to overturn it.
This whole thing is disgusting. We are supposed to defend the less fortunate, and the one who is the youngest and most vulnerable among us is on trial. A fake trial at that.
He is a martyr, that's all. This is just one time. After we clear ourselves, we can resume the revolution.
Don't believe him. He's no revolutionary. He's more like a slum lord. Did he tell you about how he got this place? Someone was living here, and he kicked him out.
How could you do such a thing?
We needed a place to hide out. Don't be taken in by this spy. He is not committed to this revolution. He was trying to escape.
I was trying to warn you. This house, it isn't right. We have to leave.
Good idea. Come on, Manny. Let's go. This trial is over.
She turned toward the front door and touched my arm as a gesture to come with her. I stood up only to hear Sawyer take the safety off his gun.
Sit back down. No one is going anywhere.
Put the gun down. You're not a killer.
It's time to leave. We have to get out of here. This house isn't right.
We started this revolution, and we are going to finish it. Finish it my way. You two are the planners. You two are the leaders. We tried to stop you, but you went up ahead and blew up a warehouse. Once I turn you in, I'll be a hero. I'll show the world my commitment to truth and justice. I'll be on TV again, and then I will gather my followers, a new and better group, a core group of committed revolutionaries. We will be leaders. We will be fighters. We will be righteous.
He raised his arms and head toward the ceiling. Suddenly, a black figure fell on Sawyer's head. It was a large flatworm that covered his forehead, eyes, and nose. He screamed and dropped the gun. He turned his head from left to right frantically to try and free himself from the creature's grasp. The animal enclosed its outer edges around the top of his face. Sawyer dug his fingers into the creature's sides to pry it loose. Just then, smaller flatworms landed on his hands and began to crawl down his sleeves. Streams of blood poured from under the creature down the sides of Sawyer's jaw. Crystal screamed at the sight and stepped back, her glasses falling from her face, her hand touching the light switch. The whole room was now illuminated, and around us were flatworms. They covered the sidewalls, the ceilings, and floors. They were climbing the legs of the table, trying to reach me. I turned and saw Crystal's back against the wall by the light switch. Flatworms were crawling on her face, her neck, slithering down the sleeves of her arms and crawling up her legs. As they moved down her face, they peeled the outer layers of her skin, exposing the insides of her mouth, showing the tendons of her cheeks, her top gums and teeth. She fell to the floor where other flatworms covered her body and devoured her. By then, Patrice reached the gun on the floor near Sawyer's feet. He laid on the ground, consumed by the flatworms. She fired the gun at one of the creatures, hanging on a chandelier. It exploded from impact and rained down brown mucus all over the table. She fired the gun again at another creature, and it too spread its insides all over the room. She emptied the chamber, firing frantically at anything that moved. "Come on, Patrice! We have to get out of here!" Suddenly, flatworms began falling from the ceiling. One landed on her hand and quickly burrowed through her skin for a clean hole. Others began landing all over her body. She screamed, her mouth wide open towards the ceiling. Just then, a flatworm the size of my hand fell in her mouth and scurried down her throat, followed by more. Her head was frozen. Her arms were stiff and wide. Coming out of her mouth were bits of her inner organs, bits of her lungs, her intestines, and then her heart. She fell to the ground for other flatworms to attack and eat her. I looked to my sides and saw hundreds of flatworms moving toward me. I stepped back toward the foyer of the house and fell. My backpack had tripped me. I remembered I still had a small container of aluminum powder inside. Flatworms crowded toward me, then slithering sounds dominated the room. I retrieved the container, opened it, and flung the powder at the candle sitting on the table. The silvery dust went everywhere and quickly ignited. Fire rose from the room fast. Flames caught on the old carpet, the drapes, the lampshades. The flatworms echoed on high-pitched squeal from the inferno. They stopped moving toward me as the fire caught the table and took hold of the side walls. I turned and ran for the door. Outside on the porch, I saw other flatworms. I jumped from the stairs and rolled on the ground. I got out to see the entire house covered by slick and swarthy creatures. I ran down the country road, looked back only once to see the fire had engulfed the entire house. The exposed earth above began to give way and fell upon the structure, imploding the roof and sides in a burst of flames. By the time I made it back to the center of town, the sun had risen to greet me. An early train had arrived to take me home, not the home that was an abandoned cannery in the city, but my real home, in the suburbs where my parents awaited me. I care not about what they were or what they thought, as I had in the past. All that mattered was that they were there for me. After I told them what had happened, they and I agreed to turn myself in. I retold the entire story to the FBI agents, but after a week in their custody, they let me go. They didn't believe me. They said I was a lost kid taken in by the older and more flamboyant members of our group. They said I had suffered enough and I was not charged for any crimes. I could get back to my life. I returned to high school, where I resumed taking class. I was devoted to my studies and I graduated with honors. I plan to go to college where I'm thinking of a double major, chemistry and biology.
Well, now, that was a revolutionary tale. Too bad for the Righteous Five that their cause fell flat at the end. Our protagonist, Manny, was the only survivor. You might say he squirmed his way out of the inferno. After all his social protesting, it wasn't until he saw his friends getting eaten alive by flatworms that he witnessed something truly revolting. I think we at Gruesome University could use a new student like Manny. What do you think? Perhaps you too would like to join us. All you need to do is subscribe and like Gruesome University, if you dare. More dark and twisted tales are yet to come. Until next time, remember, Gruesome University, where all students major in horror.